So just moving into Q&A. Andrew, do you want to kick off with the first question?
Thanks. Yeah, can we look at your system landscape?
Sure.
What is you didn't talk about what your org strategy is here for this multiple region rollout. Can you just tell me what it is, how many orgs you're planning to put in place and why that would be the case?
Sure, yeah. So there are three considerations for the org strategy. Number one is I don't see any governor limit impact, and I don't see anywhere requirement related to the different business processes. Now, I assume that there is no regulatory and the compliance impact, and I didn't get any hint on any requirement there. We might need to handle the regulatory requirements separately. So considering all these three facts, right now I'm going with a single org strategy.
And no follow-up on that, Lawrence?
Okay, great, thanks. And so there are some requirements around some custom diagramming. Could you just talk about your recommendation there, and could you explain whether you considered anything else and what your considerations were?
Yes, so there was on this requirement, they're talking about this. Give me 1 minute. Sorry, 1 minute. Sorry for that. So for the custom diagramming, I did consider that we could use some native mobile app or etc. But Lightning Web Component does give us the capability for the screen touch based diagramming, and in HTML5 we have a concept of canvas. So I'm suggesting we should be having a customized Lightning Web Component which can work on the touch screen, where we can do sketching and everything. And once the sketching is done, we should be able to save the Lightning Web Component canvas as an image. So I did consider like a mobile app, custom mobile app, or some App Exchange product, but there is an App Exchange product related to the digital signature for the Lightning Web Component, but not really for the drawing purpose. So my recommendation would be a Lightning Web Component.
Okay. Okay, and if as part of these requirements for the sketching tool there was something something a bit more sophisticated than just freehand sketching was required, what would you suggest? What approach would you take in terms of selecting a solution? And let's assume, as you say, there's no custom, there's no app on the App Exchange. What would you recommend in that scenario?
If there is no app in the App Exchange, let's say, and they want very kind of the complex sketching system, then I would change my solution, and I would suggest we should be using custom mobile app, hybrid. So hybrid mobile app, there are some SDKs available that can be leveraged to take the touchscreen and draw diagram and fill colors, etc. The reason I'm not suggesting native mobile app is the advantage of the hybrid mobile app, we can roll out that hybrid mobile app to the multiple platform like Android and iPhone at the same time if needed. So my solution would be hybrid mobile app with the libraries to support the sophisticated touchscreen requirements.
Okay, thanks very much, Andrew.
Thanks. Yeah, looking at the maintenance, if we look at your data model, you've got the booking object, which ties to the assets. Can you just talk me through how assets get added to a maintenance booking, and how many maintenance bookings are there? How do you manage it over time?
Yes. So asset is actually going to be linked to the product. So at the product level, we are going to have the schedule system that this kind of the product is going to need how many schedules, like 2 schedules or 3 schedules in a year. Mm-hmm. And every night there are going to be the batch apex. So every night batch apex would run, and it will try to understand, it will try to find out that is there any asset that needs a servicing in the next 3 months, and does that asset has any booking of type schedule. And according to that, we would be creating a booking record, and the type of the booking record would be the maintenance, so that that asset would not be able to booked by some other assembly or the reassembling process. So combination of the batch apex, schedule at the product, we would be creating booking 3 months in advance. Now in terms of the data volume, let me quickly check. I did saw somewhere, I think it's around 6 million. Yeah, there are 6 millions of the booking record in 10 years as per my calculation. Yeah. So it's a 40,000 inventory item. If we do the calculation, 6 million, Salesforce should be able to handle it. But we do need to talk about the archiving strategy, that how we can offload these booking information externally to some data warehouse system.
So how many booking records would there actually be? One each night, or one every 3 months, or what's your plan for that? How does the Apex create the booking records? The maintenance booking records.
Yeah, so how, the question, if I understood, how the Apex would create?
Yeah, you've got batch Apex running each night. Is it creating a maintenance booking each night, or is it a single maintenance booking record and then all the assets get added to that over time? How does it work?
Okay, yeah. So every night when the batch Apex is going to run, it is going to create a single booking record for each asset. So let's say we have a 40,000 inventory item, 40,000 assets. So each asset is going to have their own booking record. Okay.
Just follow up on this one. You talked about using a sharing set from the booking object to the contractors. There's no relationship from the booking or the asset or the product to the account object. So how do you propose making use of a sharing set so that contractors can see these?
Okay, so basically I misspoke that one. I would take that back. So the relation between asset and the booking is actually the master detail. So we cannot share the booking record directly. At the asset level, there is a out of the box field which is related to the account, saying that asset is going to be serviced by which account. So we will populate that field and we are going to create a sharing set at asset level. So we will share the asset with the contractors so that a contractor would be able to see the booking information.
Okay, thank you. Lawrence?
Okay, so you described the schedule of work orders being created automatically through some through an asynchronous process. And you mentioned that the schedule for that was held on the product. Could you explain how you would manage changes to that schedule on the product, and how that might manifest in the data model?
Sorry, so schedule to the product. Sorry, I didn't catch that question.
Yeah, so the work orders. So the work orders will for asset maintenance will be created on a schedule. Am I right to?
No, sorry. So just to clarify, we are not using a work order for the maintenance. We are using a work order for the installation process. For the maintenance, I'm repurposing the booking record itself. So booking record is going to have two record types. One is booked against event and another is a maintenance. I would be using this one.
Okay. And what happens when the product schedule changes? Is there anything that we need need to consider around that?
Right. So if the product schedule changes, we already have a Lightning Web component which is going to have a logic that the asset is available for the booking or not. So if let's say a product schedule changes, we need to have a process which is going to go and cancel all the booking record, and the sales rep, ops team has to go back and they have to start booking it again. So there is no automated process to book the record if the code changes. The only automation we can have is just cancel the bookings. Booking status would be canceled so that this asset would be available to reserve for some other team for the booking purpose. Did it answer it?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Andrew?
Thanks. Following the journey through a customer, it goes from opportunity to order and then from order to work order. How does the order get created and how does the work order subsequently get created too?
Yeah. So when the customer signs the signature on the code, we are good with the estimation, and the sales rep is going to change the status of opportunity as a closed one. We are going to have a after save flow on opportunity, which will create an order and it will copy all the opportunity product as a order line item. So that order and order line item creation would be handled using a flow. Now on order information, ops team has to go back, they have to book all the products and everything, they have to get the shipping if needed. And once they receive all the order at their depot location, they will change the status of order saying that shipment received or fulfillment done. Again, here also we are going to have after save flow, and we are going to create work order automatically, and we are going to assign a team leader to the work order, again using after save flow. So during using the declarative process, the system is going to be scalable, maintainable, and usable, because we are not using any customization anywhere, just a configuration tool we are using to create order and the work order on the basis of statuses.
Okay. How does the flow know which team leader to assign the work order to?
Yes, so I'm assuming that we are going to have some mapping object somewhere saying, sorry, let me think about that one. Yeah, so I'm work order supports queue. So my suggestion is going to be by each depot, we should be having a sales team lead queue. So when the work order gets created, we should be assigning it to the queue, and we should be enabling email notification in the queue. So all the team leads in that depot would get a notification, and one of that member can go and they can accept the work order from that queue.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's some requirements around accepting customer inquiries by email, and you mentioned using email to case. Could you talk about some of the limitations or considerations around email to case?
Yeah, a few considerations about email to case. Number one is the total governor limit is 5,000. So in a 24-hour, we can only process 5,000 emails. And there is a limit on the email attachment as well. So if the email, I think, so as per my knowledge, 10 megabytes of the attachments are possible. So if the customer sends an email and that size is more than 10 MB, it would throw an error. It would bounce back. And also, depending on who is the sender, on the basis of that, the contact would be automatically attached. But let's say if that customer does not exist, we can have some filtering. If that customer does not exist, then it will simply create a case without attaching the contact. So these are the few of the considerations when we are planning to use email to case.
Okay, and if we have requirements to associate that case that's being created to the relevant order, could you talk about how that correlation could happen using email to case?
Yes, so email to case would not allow us to do that, because in email to case, Salesforce automatically creates a case. There is a concept of email services where we can expose an Apex class behind the scene, but I would not suggest that, because those are not reliable. We can scan for the body, for the order number, or the order number in the subject line, and then we can attach, which may work, which may not work, and there could be some governor limits depending on the size of that. So if we want to attach an order, I would suggest that the case owner should go and manually assign an order to that case record on the basis of out of the box email to case.
Okay, great, thank you.
At the disassembly process, you talked about a second work order to track damages, etc.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about that rolling up to the account level. Looking at your data model, how they're not directly related. It's a couple of hops through order, through opportunity to get to the account. So how does the value on the second work order, which I appreciate has a different type, so we can recognize it, how does it get to the account so it can be used in future approvals?
Yeah, so actually I missed the link. So work order always have a link to the account as well. So I just missed that. Out of the box work order is linked to the account. So for the future purpose, if anything is there, it would give a 360-degree view. Someone opens an account, at account level, they would be able to see all the work order, all the order, and all the opportunities.
But we need an attribute on the account itself. It's not a master detail object, no, it's a lookup.
That's right, yeah. So sorry, Andrew, I think I misunderstood the question. Can you please come back again?
We have a number of work orders, let's say over time. They have their type damage or whatever the type is. They have amounts on them. We need that amount on the account record, because in future opportunities, we might have to invoke an approval process.
Okay, okay, I see. Yeah, so for that, I'm going to keep an total damage account, maybe by per year. So every time when we are going to change the work order status saying that closed, we will have after save flow on the work order to get that account and go update the parent account field and add that final amount at account. So let's say the customer has 2 times in a year de-assembly process, and 2 times there is a cost of, let's say, $2,000, $3,000. So using after save flow, we would be able to stamp that field at the account level using this process.
Okay, thank you.
So just a question around the process for procuring new items that are not available. So you mentioned if something is not available for an order, there would be a I think you mentioned there would be a separate order created for the procurement request. So can you talk about how that relates to the original order and how we ensure that that original order is how that life cycle works between those two orders?
Yeah, sure. So during the wizard in the Lightning Web Component, when we are going to book, and let's say there are 5 items which is not available, we are going to create a child order record of the tribe procurement, and all those 5 products would be added in that child order record. And that order and the child order auto creation would be happening in the Lightning Web Component itself when we are going to do the booking. And then there is going to be the process when all the order procurement is going to be the success. We can have some kind of the notification for the ops team saying that, okay, procurement is done. You can go ahead and work on the next step. So there is going to be the child order record, which would be linked to the asset.
Okay. Okay. And is there any relationship with the order line, or is that that's just implicit?
So no, so order is always going to be order line item depending on, let's say, how many procurement we have. So let's say we have to do the 2 procurement process. So we will create 1 order and 2 order line item for both 2 procurement. So order line item would be individual product that we want to procure.
Okay. 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 Thanks. Andrew?
Thanks. Can I look at your DevOps plan?
Environment strategy?
That's the one, yeah. You talked about using Scratch orgs. What are some of the considerations for Scratch orgs?
Yeah, so a few considerations about the Scratch org is the space is very low. I think it's around 20 MB or 50 MB. I'm not sure on that one. I need to check. But another consideration is the life of the Scratch org is between 7 days and 30 days. And after that time, the Scratch org would inaccessible. It would be scheduled for deletion. Another governor limit from the Scratch org is that we can only create 100 Scratch orgs in a day. However, the advantage of the Scratch org is unlike in sandbox, every time we create a sandbox, it gets the metadata either from the production or from the another sandbox. But the Scratch org, the source of truth can be the source control management. So for every release is going to have in each branch, each tag. So every time when we spin up the Scratch org, that Scratch org can be created just in that time where we want to. So that is an advantage. And that is the reason I have suggested we should be using a Scratch org for the build and the POC purpose.
Okay. And you positioned Azure pipelines there. Why did you pick pipelines over another product?
Sorry, Andrew, come back again the question.
You talked about using Azure pipelines.
Right.
Yeah, there. So why pipelines instead of any other product?
Yes. So I assumed that they already have a skill set available in-house because they are big Azure DevOps. So that is my consideration. But let's assume that they don't have a skill set available to work on Azure pipeline. There are tools like Copado that is a point and click. I would suggest that tool if that skill set is not available.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't see on this diagram any mention of specific deployment technology. Could you talk about how the deployments are happening between environments?
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So assuming it's a Azure or it's a Copado, the whole process is not going to change. So every user, every developers are going to have their own user story. They would be working on a Scratch org. Once they commit their story, we are going source control management like Git. There is going to be Azure DevOps or the Copado would be listening on that branch. And depending on against which branch that pull request has been raised, first of all, the technical lead will go back and they will review everything is good. They will accept the pull request, which will change the branch. Azure DevOps would be listening on that branch and it will detect which branch the code has been changed. Depending on the branch, Azure DevOps pipeline will deploy that code either in QA, SIT, UAT, or the prod stage. We have some gates here. So technical, it would be deployed in Salesforce DX.
Is that a metadata deployment or a source deployment or a package deployment?
That is a source deployment. I'm suggesting to use a source deployment here.
And any particular reason you wouldn't recommend using packages?
Normally we use unlock packages if we are in the multi-org, or let's say we have to write once, develop once, and deploy on multiple orgs and multiple markets. Here we are in a single org strategy. That is the reason I'm not suggesting any unlock package. Source-driven development I'm suggesting.
Okay, thanks, Andrew.
I don't recall, you talked a little bit about data migration, and on here you've said that it could be a separate sandbox rather than the staging. What was your thinking there?
Yeah, so the reason I was thinking is sometimes it happens that data migration might be, we would be doing lots of data migration and the reconciliation report, making sure the data got properly deployed or not. It might conflict with our kind of the end-to-end testing or the performance testing. So that is the reason I'm suggesting we should be having two separate full copy sandbox, one dedicated for the data migration reconciliation reports, and another dedicated for like training and end-to-end testing.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Could you talk about, just on that testing, can you talk about the different types of automated testing that you'll be doing as part of this workflow and where they happen?
Sure. So every time when we are going to deploy, first of all, we are always going to run the selective Apex test classes. That would be the part of that pull request or the deployment. That is the first level or the front face of the testing going to be happening. We need to identify the critical business use cases, and we should automate those as a automated testing. And for that, again, I am assuming that in-house we have expert for the Selenium. So we would be writing a Selenium script and we would plug in those Selenium script everywhere. So every time then there is a change in QA, SIT, UAT, we would be running a business critical automated testing, making sure all the test classes, existing functionality is not being broken when we are developing the new one. So we are going to run Apex test classes every time, and we are going to run automated testing using Selenium every time when we are deploying. So these are the two types of the testing we would be doing.
Okay, so you mentioned some requirements around LWC. Is there any testing that we'd be doing around those components, automated testing? Okay,
yeah. So I missed that one. So we should also be considering just based testing here. So that's a JavaScript based testing. So all the LWCs are going to have their JavaScript controller. So every time when we detect the Lightning Web Component, we should be running the jest suite as well. So that would be the third testing we should be doing.
Okay, thanks, Andrew.
If you have an urgent bug, that in production that needs fixing, how are you addressing it with this this stack?
Sure. So I missed another branch and another sandbox. If that is the case, I will spin up another Hotfix environment, and that can be type of the dev sandbox. That would be exactly replica of the production. So we will fix bug in the Hotfix. We will do the testing also there. And once the bug get fixed, we will create again the pull request against the master, which will be deployed again by the Azure DevOps on the production. So we need a Hotfix branch and Hotfix sandbox here.
Okay, so what sandbox type is that Hotfix?
I'm suggesting the sandbox type should be dev, and the reason for that, I'm not anticipating the large number of the data there. and we should be able to create dev type of the sandbox every day. So that would be my suggestion.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Could you describe how your resources who are not developers participate in this flow? So if we have some members of the team that work with configuration but not development, how do they work with this flow?
Yeah, so we have to coach all the admins also, that if they are doing any configuration like process builder or the flow, they should be committing their data in the branch itself. So even if they are a point and click, they should go to the branch, so that we should be following the same process for the code or the configuration deployment. We need to coach them for that one.
And would that include using Scratch orgs?
Yeah, so that can include Scratch org, and then can be the sandbox also. We need to see how frequently they need that org. I would suggest for the admins, we should not be using a Scratch org. We should be using a sandbox for them, because we don't want to create the test data and everything for them. So instead of Scratch org, there would be sandboxes for the admins, but the remaining whole process would be exactly the same.
Okay, thank you.
You talked about a governance body, but I wasn't sure, and I'd like you to clarify the makeup of that body and its key responsibilities.
Yeah, sure. So there was not very clear requirement on the challenges, so I didn't went on any generic, but my recommendation for the governance body is, first of all, we have a 3 region. So so we are going to have a sponsor, and then we are going to have a steering committee who is going to make vision and alignment, and then we are going to have a program lead. So program lead is going to be the center person or the team of the people who is going to work with the technical team. They are going to work with the architect team and also the compliance team, making sure they're following the vision set up by the steering committee. So the technical team is going to be made up of technical architect, integration architect. We should also having architect review board, because there is a requirement that they want to make sure that they are following proper best practices and everything. For the Azure DevOps pipeline, if you are not using Copado, we should be, even if you are using Copado, we need to have a release managers there to set up the branching strategy and everything. From the business side, we need to have all the product owners. We need to have a change management team who is going to define that what needs to be implemented, and they are going to act as a traffic police, so that not every, what is the weightage of incoming work, they would decide. We have a data migration. So for that, I'm suggesting we should be having data stewardship role. So they are going to define the rules for the data quality, data dictionary, etc. For the change management, we need to have SMEs in place so that we involve them during the requirement and implementation, so that they feel they own the solution. We also need to have a compliance body, making sure that we are following all the compliance and the guidelines and everything. And each Scrum team, I would suggest they should be having a different work stream. All would be forming a center of excellence.
Okay, good, thank you.
Okay. And so this is a global implementation. If we have teams working in multiple different countries, what kinds of challenges could that bring, and how would you mitigate against those?
Yeah. So if the teams are working in a multiple region, the biggest challenge is going to be the communication, and where we need a very solid ALM tool. So in ALM tool, where we can write all the features, all the user stories, all the acceptance criteria, so that everybody is in sync. And we also need to have kind of the daily stand-up between all the team. So we need to have some ceremonies. So each work stream is going to have their scrum, and between all the team, we should be having a scrum, and we should identify a common time between all regions, so that we can have a status. And if any risk anywhere maintained, we can take a help of the Center of Excellence team program lead to manage that risk and make sure that we have a proper mitigation plan to address those risks.
Okay, great, thank you. Andrew?
And look at your system landscape, because you talked about archiving of records into a data warehouse. Where does that exist on the landscape, or if it doesn't, what technology are you suggesting for it?
So I'm assuming again the customer is Azure DevOps. So I'm suggesting they already have a data warehouse in Azure Blob somewhere. So I would be having a data warehouse here, and we already have ETL tool. So every night ETL tool will connect to the Salesforce. It will make a remote calling using a REST API, and it will try to find all the record which qualifies the archiving process. It will extract all those information, and it will store all those information in the data warehouse here. So I'm missing that one.
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. I think we're coming close to time, so so maybe we'll just do two more. So could you? So you mentioned that you would use a combination of waterfall and agile methodologies. Could you talk a bit more about how these two would work together, and specifically in the case of agile, how you ensure that senior stakeholders have a good visibility of what to expect in the medium to long term?
Sure, yeah. So the reason I am suggesting waterfall is mostly we have a lot of integrations, and for integration I am suggesting as a part of waterfall we should set up all the contracts, that what contract needs to be followed between the system. And also we should be having a blueprint upfront. For an example, this solution can act as a blueprint at architectural high level, that what app exchange we need, what coding we need. So once we have all the blueprint and everything, I would suggest we should using an ALM tool, break everything in a feature and the stories, and the development team can start working in a agile methodology. Now, in order for sponsors or executives to know how the develop is being done, we can have the combination of PI planning, which says that how many things we can deliver in the 2 months with multiple sprints of 2 weeks. So after the end of each program increment, we can have system demo. In the system demo, we can ask all the stakeholders to join, like technical, product owner, and the steering. And that in system demo, we can ask sponsors also to join, to see what is the process, and if anyone have any feedback, we can take as a part of the system demo. And through the change control board, we can schedule that what is the priority of the feedback that we got. So using the system demo, everybody would be in sync that what is being developed and what is in the pipeline.
Great, thank you. Andrew?
With regards to photos, you talked, they're using the devices, the photos have come a lot through the scenario. You talked about chatter files, but then you also talked about Files Connect and maybe Box. How does your solution hang together here in terms of how the internal users will take photos and on the native Salesforce mobile, and then how do they get stored and how do they go out to Box, or when do they go out to Box?
Yeah, sure. So I'm saying, yeah, first of all, I'm assuming that photos needs to be viewed by the customer also sometime. And in the native mobile app, we can take a photo and we will use a normal chatter file to upload all the photos at opportunity level, work order level, etc. And the reason for that, so that the customers can view it. Once we close the opportunity and once we are done with everything, I would suggest we should be having a ETL connecting to the Salesforce, extract the content version and content document and upload it in the box, and then create a relation between that photos again. And the reason I'm not doing it upfront, because File Connect does not work by per user basis for the external user. Otherwise, we have to provision external user also for the File Connect. So keep using a chatter file until the project is going on, and once the project is done, move that chatter file to the box with the content version, content document link as it is. So for if internal user they have to see and reporting, they can still be able to use File Connect itself. It just works with the chatter file. They are going to have a different icon in the chatter file, and that icon will specify that the file is a local or file is in the File Connect. So that is going to be the whole process.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Thanks very much. I think we'll leave it there.